Hi, I'm Mike and I do watchmaking videos. Through editing, I'm able to compress sometimes months of events into a half-hour package. But learning and indeed watchmaking takes place in real time, and that's what I want to share with you today. I'm going to bare my soul and present my most recent watchmaking blunders because, well, I hope there's something informative about it, and it's an honest look at amateur watchmaking. Mistakes will become learning moments, and discovery of an extra part I don't recognize becomes a mystery to be solved. The subject of this video is a USSR watch made by Raketa, which features their 2609.HA movement. The watch is most likely from the late 1970s and is referred to as a TV dial model. The watch sets and winds, but only runs in the dial down position. Uncasing the watch was fairly straightforward. Instead of using hand levers, I decided to give my new used Bergeon hand-removing tool some practice, and I bent the hour hand. My mistake was not watching close enough to ensure that the hooks on the tool were centered under all of the hands. Even though this tool automates the pulling motion, it has to be positioned exactly before you squeeze the handles. Lesson learned. There's a broken dial foot, which looks like someone tried to glue it back in place. Look at how thick that dial is. That's a serious chunk of metal. As you probably know, it's good practice to remove the balance with its delicate hairspring to keep it safe during assembly. The antics with this watch get seriously underway with a squirrely screw. When disassembling a watch, I routinely show the screws in both sides of the part to the camera to help me and the audience recognize when it's time to reassemble. This evening, I guess my tweezer game wasn't warmed up yet and I fumbled the screw.
Oh, come on.
It's very frustrating when a small part falls into a movement, especially one that's been assembled. But it will happen and you do what you have to retrieve it. I didn't want to damage the balance, so I tried dumping out the screw and got more than I bargained for.
Well, I got the screw out. I didn't think the balance was just going to plop out like that.
This Soviet watch disassembles very similar to most of the Swiss watches I've worked on. So I usually disassemble in this order. For a simple three-hand watch, after unwinding the mainspring, I remove the balance. Then the hour wheel and cannon pinion on the dial side, flip it over to the back or bridge side to remove the powertrain and wheels before returning to the dial side to remove the keyless works, which set and wind the watch. With the crown wheel and ratchet wheel out of the way, I'm turning my attention to the train of wheels that turns the hands. This watch has a stacked center wheel, which drives the minute hand, and fourth wheel, which drives the second hand.
Okay, the train wheel bridge lifts away.
With the bridge gone, I expected the wheel that drives the second hand to easily lift out.
Yeah, I should have taken out the cannon pinion. So, we'll see. This may even drop the wheels out. If it does, it does. Huh, yep, got ahead of myself. Okay. We'll just loosely set him there. Hour wheel. Can we get him off? No, I'm pulling harder than I'm comfortable.
I started watchmaking with the theory that if you remove enough screws, eventually the timepiece will disassemble itself. When I was 10 years old, I tested this theory on my mom's 1950s travel alarm clock. I was basically correct. She was not that impressed, and a plastic bag containing all of the parts to that clock remained in our kitchen junk drawer for the rest of my childhood. I was hopeful that the removal of this intermediate bridge plate would release the wheels.
Okay, so, geez, maybe it is the cannon pinion holding everything, holding up the works here.
As I've said before, gravity can sometimes work in your favor. But in this case, gravity wasn't enough.
I can try to pull the cannon pinion with this Bergeron tool, but I don't believe it's purpose made for doing this. Let's see. Oh, hey, that did it.
What's this extra part?
I just used this Bergeron tool to pull the cannon pinion, and there's a bunch of stuff going on here. Thing number one is there's the cannon pinion, so he's out. Now, thing number two is I'm in uncharted territory because what the heck is that? I'm going to have to microscope that. Is that the center tube that the little second hand goes through? I'm not quite sure.
If parts drop out while you are working, pay attention to how they've landed. Luckily, these parts stayed in position to how they need to be reassembled. Time to do some detective work on our extra part. I posted this photo to a couple of Facebook watchmaking groups and received a variety of answers, but most were theoretical and not concrete. I examined the parts further under the microscope. First, the part was not a tube. It was closed at one end. It looked like there was a jewel in the opening of the part, but that was just a bevel that gave the appearance of a jewel. One of the Facebook suggestions was that I broke a pivot off of a wheel, so I looked for evidence of this and did not find any. So, like a curious kid with a stacking toy, I started putting watch parts together until they fit, and I came up with this. What you're seeing is the fourth wheel, with the long seconds hand pivot passing through the minute wheel or center wheel, with our mystery part stuck on the end of the second hand mounting post. In this view, the fourth wheel is to the right and the minute wheel, on which the cannon pinion gets mounted, is to the left. Could the extra part be an extension of the second hand pivot to clear that thick dial? While the mystery part fits over that second hand post, I've never seen anything like this before, and I'd like more proof that my theory is correct. Here's another view of how these parts fit together.
So here's the part as it was sitting on top of that little seconds hand. And if anyone is curious, cannon pinion, and he's got enough clearance to straddle that minute wheel. We'll remove him, put him aside.
Here's a close-up look at how the second hand mounting post on the fourth wheel passes through a jewel at the top of the minute wheel. The tip of the second hand mounting post is narrowed, and I wonder if that's to accommodate the extra part. Here's our part laid out next to the fourth wheel. The depth of the thin part of the shaft looks correct, and if these two parts were pressed together, that would explain why the fourth wheel wouldn't have easily lifted out. The final test to confirm my suspicion will be whether the second hand fits the post on the top of our mystery part. I found a hole on the table of my staking tool small enough that our extra part didn't fall through, and introduced the second hand. Had they met before? Will they come together like old friends?
Where's my hammer? I'm just kidding. No hammering. So now, if I lift this carefully, I think we might have our answer. How about that?
While not as thrilling as solving a good whodunit, I was glad to be reasonably certain that I had identified my mystery part. After everything goes through the cleaning cycle, I think I will reattach it to the second hand like I just did on the staking tool before pressing the hand onto the watch. If you think that there's a better approach, then please share your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed my little watchmaking docudrama. I plan to feature the full rebuild of this watch in the near future. As always, I look forward to hearing from you in the comments section. If you enjoy this type of content, please give the video a like and consider subbing as we're closing in on 5,000 subscribers. I'm Mike. The channel is Watch with Mike. I look forward to our next time together.